Yes. How are you today? All right. Yesterday we finished with the living standards, and today we are still going to continue with another topic related to living standards, which is poverty. We all know what poverty is, right? We can see it around our neighborhood. There are some people that cannot feed. There are some people that struggle hard before they can just satisfy their needs. So, poverty can be measured in both absolute and relative terms. We have two ways we can measure poverty: absolute and relative terms. And we are going to look at these terms one by one. What is absolute poverty? This is when people, or it occurs when people cannot satisfy their basic needs. They are unable to satisfy their basic needs. What are some of these basic needs? We talk of food, we talk of shelter, we talk of clothing, etc. When we are talking of needs and wants, we have come across these things. So, absolute poverty is when people are not able to have access to these basic needs. Okay? And relative poverty is when people are compared, the poverty of people are compared to other people in the same country. That is, it occurs when people are poor in comparison with other people in the same country. Then we talk of vicious cycle of poverty. This is a very, very bad situation where people are trapped into poverty. That poverty is just around them. They do everything struggle, but they can't come out of poverty. And we all know that those who are poor have less than an average education or health. They cannot access education. They cannot access health. And with this, it can lead to low productivity, unemployment opportunities, and low living standards. It can even affect the prospect of their children. Then, we look at Multidimensional Poverty Index, or MPI. What does this mean? This is a measure that is based on the deprivation in education. We talk of health and standard of living. It means depriving the people from gaining education, health, and having good standard of living. And we have different dimensions and indicators. The dimensions we have already taught: depriving them, education, health, and standard of living. And these are the dimensions we have put in the form of this diagram or chart or illustration, where we have health, education, and standard of living. And the indicators, we have under health, we have two indicators: nutrition and mortality or child mortality. Under education, we have years of schooling and children enrolled. So we also have two indicators. And under standard of living, we have 6 indicators: cooking fuel, toilet, water, electricity, floor, and assets. What does this mean? It means that measuring the poverty measures when people are not able to feed and children die. The measure is the intensity of poverty, how intense that poverty is. It means you don't have money or to take or to even feed or treat your children or send them to hospital. That's why they die. Under the years of education, the poverty measure is also the intensity of poverty. How many years you studied, or when maybe you started from primary 1, 2, 3, 4, and ended in primary 5, you couldn't continue. We measure it using the intensity of poverty. But under education, we can measure the children enrolled using the head count. So we can count how many students or children or pupils are enrolled in schools. And the measure of these indicators are mostly head count under standard of living. We count the number of households using fuel or cooking fuel, having toilets, using water, electricity, and assets, etc. So these are the dimensions and these are the indicators and these are the measures. And remember that under Earth we have 2 indicators, and under education we have 2 indicators, and under living standard we have 6 indicators. What are the policies that the government can implement in order to reduce poverty? We are going to look at certain policies here, how poverty can be reduced. So we have improving the quantity and quality of education. This can improve the prospect and potential earnings of the poor, right? When you have good education, you might be able to have a good job, right? And it can increase their potentials of earning a salary and even the prospect of your children studying. Then another point or policy that the government can implement is increasing aggregate demand or promoting economic growth. When aggregate demand increases, there could be an increase in employment opportunities, because when there's an increase in aggregate demand, maybe firms would like to expand or increase the size of their business, which will therefore mean that they will need workers to work, because they know that when they produce, there will be a demand for the products, and that will alleviate poverty. It will make people to have at least money to spend. Introducing or raising a national minimum wage, which means that the government has to put a minimum wage that workers have to be paid, and this will increase the income levels of workers. You cannot go below that wage rate. Then encourage more multinational companies, MNCs, which means multinational companies to set up in the country. You know, when multinational companies are companies like Total, Noble Energy, Marathon, that have businesses in different countries, that have branches in different countries. So when the government encourages these kind of businesses to invest in their countries, it means that they are going to create job opportunities where the citizens will be employed, and maybe this could lead to a reduction in the poverty rate and better living standards. Now, providing or increasing state benefits. We know people like the elderly, the sick, the disabled, and the less privileged in the society. They might not be able to work and earn money. So the government can increase the benefits, state benefits, which will help them to earn some money. For example, unemployment benefits, pensions, advantages or money for the disabled. So when the government increase these state benefits, it can help them to alleviate poverty. Then we talk of land reforms. You know, land is normally owned by the few rich. Ownership of land is maybe for the few and the rich. So the government should make it in a way that they can make ownership of land more equal, so that those who are renting land will now be able to own land. Because when the land is owned only by the few and the rich, those who rent land or lease the land might not or might be reluctant to improve on the fertility of the land, because they know that at the end they will leave it. So when there's ownership, you see that they are willing and able to, they might be willing to improve on the fertility of the land so they can do agriculture, which will alleviate their poverty. So this is it about poverty. And remember that we have two measures. It can be measured both in absolute and relative poverty or terms. Absolute and relative terms. Then we talk of vicious circles, which means a situation where people are trapped in poverty. Then we talk of multidimensional poverty index, which means people are deprived in education, health, and standard of living. So we saw the different dimensions and the indicators and the measures. And we said that under health, we have two indicators, nutrition and child mortality. And under education, we have two as well, years of schooling and children enrollment. And under education and health, we have the measure, which is the intensity of poverty. And we also have standard of living with the indicators, cooking fuel, toilet, water, electricity, floor, and assets, where the measure is headcount ratio. Then we concluded with our policy measures, that is the measures that the government can take in order to reduce poverty. Thank you and see you next class. Take care.